Well, the Russell Brand interview with Bill Paxton has been going around to everybody now, and everyone's throwing out an opinion on it. This seems to have caused a bit of a controversy because of supposedly Russell Brand said he advocated revolution. Actually, I would actually point out that he didn't, and that he very specifically said he wants to change things and bring about a new system, whatever that might be. I think he very clearly said that he was not in favor of revolution. Now, you could maybe argue that he didn't want to say that, given that he would probably get in trouble for saying something like that. But I genuinely don't believe he actually was advocating revolution. What he was doing, however, was pointing out how the current system does not take care of people's needs. It ignores the destruction of the environment and generally does not do what the population of the UK actually wants. And that is actually very true. I will give Brand credit for one thing. He doesn't fall into the usual liberal trap of saying the system's not working. He knows that it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It is not supposed to take care of people's needs. It is not supposed to respect the environment. It is not doing what it is that people are told it's supposed to do. He does correctly acknowledge that the system is not in the interests of working class people. Now, he does to a degree acknowledge class. He does talk about the class of people that he came from and how it doesn't serve the general population and only serves an elite. In fact, he uses the word elite more than once, whether that be he calls a political class, but there is no political class, and corporate people. So he does very accurately understand that the system is not malfunctioning. It is doing exactly what it's supposed to do and doesn't fall into the usual liberal idea of we have to fix what's here and not that the system is doing what it is that it's supposed to be doing. And I do like the fact that he does acknowledge that voting doesn't do anything. And then, of course, if voting changed anything, they would make it illegal, as the old saying goes. And I did notice Bill Paxton did make the argument that if you don't vote, why should anybody take you seriously, or why should you be able to say anything? Well, this is a big common misunderstanding that if you don't vote, you therefore have no right to complain. I mean, this is just, it's just illogical. If what you believe in and what it is that you want for the system is not represented in any of the choices that are presented, you still have a right to complain. You still have a right to point it out. The lack of choice doesn't exclude you from being able to criticize the system, or the government, or a particular politician. In fact, if you do vote for a particular party or politician and they do something it is that you don't like, or something that you wouldn't want them to do, well, you would still have the right to criticize them, because you didn't want that. The system can still be criticized whether or not you vote. I mean, the whole idea of voting is a complete fraud. In this system, it'd be that the UK, Canada, the US, Australia, the Commonwealth, whatever. It is a fraud. The vote is essentially rigged. Rigged in that you can only vote for a particular set of interests, and that really which party you vote for doesn't matter. Even if you do or you don't, you still have a right to criticize, because the decisions that these parties and these politicians make still affect you as a citizen of the country. And I applaud Brandt for acknowledging that. He doesn't specifically tell Paxton that, but that is rather implied by what he's saying, and I do applaud Brandt for saying that voting doesn't matter, when really it doesn't. One problem I do have with Brandt is that he didn't really offer anything. What he was calling for was just a vague idea of change, meaning it wasn't defined, and that he said in the interview he didn't know what that would be. But then he made the suggestion of some kind of a utopian, socialistic kind of society where there's heavy taxes on corporations. Well, I mean, there's really a lot here to criticize, in that a utopian socialism is rather more of a liberalish concept. I mean, you know, myself being a Marxist, obviously, I believe in scientific socialism. Socialism with a scientific basis for its understanding. And that Brandt seems, in this case, very utopian. Again, we don't know exactly what it is that he believes, because either he's just not saying it, or perhaps he just doesn't even know. I mean, he does say in the interview that he doesn't know certain things, and that there are some, you know, at least some concepts that he doesn't quite get. So he's not exactly sure what he wants, but he does take a very liberal position in saying, I don't know what I want, but I know I don't want this. And that's a very prevalent idea that goes through our society. And this stems largely from the political climate being so rigged, in that the ideas that are put forward in society are so tightly controlled, despite what people may claim otherwise. Much of the political discourse is shaped in a specific way along a certain set of interests, so that when those set of interests are blatantly exposed for being as ours, that being the interests of the ruling class against ourselves, the working and poor class, people don't know how to deal with it. Because all discourse has been shaped in one particular way, being that in the interests of the ruling class no matter what. Which is why we end up with things like the prevalence of conspiracy theories. As the saying goes, anything but capitalism. The problem is anything but capitalism itself. And thus we can see, because of the way that it's shaped, the whole political debate and ideology is shaped to us, that we end up with a thing that a climate that rejects things that would actually genuinely challenge things the way they are. And that is, of course, done on purpose. One of the good things about the world is that we do have a science for understanding how things are and how systems work, and more importantly, how systems can be changed. There were people like Marx, Lenin, and Mao who gave us revolutionary science, a science that gives us the ability to understand the world around us, understand how systems function, and why they do what it is that they do. Unfortunately, due to the overwhelming liberalism that exists among the left, or left as I like to call them, they don't look at this. They simply are still stuck in that very limited, narrow political discourse that exists, where it all exists within the context of the interests of the ruling class, so that anything that would step outside the interests of the ruling class is therefore now a dirty word and is demonized, and that demonization is taken without any salt. It's taken as a pure, absolute truth. But that's the unfortunateness of all of this. There is a revolutionary science out there for us to read. There is there for us to understand, and then begin to understand the systems we live in and how they work and why they do what they do, and how, most importantly, to build a much better one. Finally, one thing that I found very funny about this whole interview coming out was liberals running around saying the word revolution. You know, Russell Brand said that we should have, he said we should have revolution. No, he didn't actually say that. He's talking about revolution. And then now, all of a sudden, you see all these liberals who take a lot of their philosophy from comedians like Bill Maher, Jon Stewart, and Stephen Colbert, now flirting with the R word, revolution. Oh. Sorry, guys, you're not going to do that. Nor are you going to get revolutionary ideas from a comedian. There is the popular expression that if you get your philosophy from a comedian, don't be surprised when it turns out to be a joke. Now, when I say that, I'm not cutting down Russell Brand. I'm saying he is only giving you a vague notion that things really, really have to change. And that's all that he's really saying. He's really not saying revolution. He's saying things just have to change. Well, we've been hearing that for a very, very long time. We've been hearing that for centuries now. The point here is that Brand hasn't really reached out to people and woken them up, to use the phrase that he used. What's happened here is all he's done is just flirt with the word revolution. If that's what he was even intending to do, I actually argue that he wasn't trying to do that at all. But this, in the very least, is the consequence of what has happened as a result of the video, the interview that he's put forward. So it's just really interesting to look at all this, and funny and also sad to look at liberals now flirting with the R word and thinking that now maybe revolution might be a good idea. Like, revolution has been a good idea for a very, very long time. And it's just very interesting to notice how liberals aren't taking that seriously, unless it just pops up when it comes out of a comedian's mouth, and how really sad that is. We've got these hardcore, real academic works on revolutionary science. Marx, Lenin, Mao, Engels, Stalin, a whole ton of people. And yet all of these hardcore academic works, built on the experience of radicalizing and reorganizing society, are ignored in favor of a comedian making a very vague statement like, things have to change. Well, we all know things have to change. Obama said things had to change, or change. Why not try reading the people who actually made change? Read Marx, read Lenin, read Mao, read stuff from the Paris Commune. Hell, just read anything by someone who actually brought change, and no more liberal ideas of just, well, I think things got to change, and don't present anything, or bring you any ideas on how to do that, or ideas on how to carry this out, or what should be done, how things should be changed, and the process by which it should be done. Because Russell Brand, in the end, was not advocating revolution. He was just simply repeating the same thing that we have heard for a very long time, long before Obama ever came along, and long before Obama was even born. Just that things have to change. Thank you for watching. Go ahead, rate, comment, subscribe, share on various social media, and if you want, there's some other great content here you could check out.